talk that NFC. So y'all stay tuned. This is the NFL Bet Exchange with your host, Pop DiBiase, the primetime capper, and the Don of Cape Cod, Mr. Jeff Dawson, and we'll be right back at you.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners and I'll Have Another and Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
Tune into Big Wave Boxing every week with a brand new guest with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the primetime capper, getting the best boxing stories, best boxing angles, and the truth when it all comes down to the sweet science. Tune in to Big Wave Boxing on the Prime Wave Media channel on YouTube.
All right, we're back with the NFL Bet Exchange with your host, the one and only Pop DiBiase, the primetime capper and the Don of Cape Cod. And you guys already know I got my horse racing going on right now as well, too. So you already know 8-1, baby, Saratoga, Dwayne Lucas, Joel Rosario. Them is sometimes, hey, that's one of them horses that you'll bet you won't even look at the form. You'll just say, Lucas and Rosario. I think they got this one. You know, the combinations, Jeff, the combinations, you know. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons have became like everybody's new crush this year. Everybody ran to Atlanta the moment they saw they had that plus 260 that they opened up with. Everybody ran to Atlanta because believe it or not, Atlanta's actually scored the most points in this division last year and technically finished last place. That's nuts. But the way that this division worked last year was everybody finished 7-10 except for Tampa Bay. This division was crazy, Jeff, because everybody had a week where they were on top of the division. You know that, right? Everybody had a week. Everybody. Even lowly Carolina for a moment there had a week where they were on top of the division, given the Buccaneers problems. And I think the Bucs lost to every team in the division this year too. In the division last year with Brady. That nobody highlighted that, Jeff, that Brady finished his career with a losing record. Nobody said nothing. He finished his career 8-10. That's why he retired. That's why he retired, because he finally had an actual losing season. And he knows it was only going to get worse. But let's talk about Atlanta. Atlanta has Bijan Robinson. Desmond Ridder now is the starter for the moment. But I think that they're confident in him. Is he going to be the face of the franchise? Is he your next? Is he your Russell Wilson? Or is he just a bridge to the next quarterback? That's the biggest question for Atlanta this season when it comes to him. Now, you got Drake London, who's probably going to be a top 10 receiver in the league this year if you play him correctly. And then you got Pitts, who they have set up to be a top 5 tight end in the league this year from what everybody's hyping up. I don't know if he's going to be on Jeff's fantasy team. He may be on mine's. But when you got guys like Drake London and Pitts, you say to yourself, it's going to be you know the risk that you're taking, because Ridder is a very, very average quarterback when it comes down to it in the NFL terms. He's a good manager. He's not somebody that you can depend on who's throwing 70-yard bombs down the field just in a blink. You know what I mean? He's a guy that you got to warm up that's what you're doing. You know what I mean? You got to be moving around, chewing up clock, things like that. But he's good at doing it. He's another guy who started a lot of games in college, and so it does translate to the leadership portion. But does it translate to the attribute portion that a lot of people that are kind of worried about when it comes to Atlanta? I feel like Atlanta is getting way too much love for a team that the quarterback that got all that offense for you wasn't your quarterback pretty much the second half of the season. You know, they went from being a highly potent offense to just being a middling offense after Mariota stepped out. So how are they going to be? Bijan Robinson's a rookie. We can't put that much pressure on him. You know what I mean? Because if he bangs out and does well, great. But if he doesn't really, splash early like everybody expects him to, then we might have a problem here. But when I look at this situation and I see that you have a team that's over under 8.5, and now their champ odds have dropped down to 180, that means that they're just getting more and more popular with the bettors because they opened up as a 7 and now they're at 8.5 because now you see them as the surprise winner of the South, but they shouldn't have those expectations yet because they don't have the top quarterback in the division. Jeff, what are your thoughts on Atlanta?
See, the problem in this division is the same as last division. So you're either going to buy the favorite with the Saints, with Derek Carr, with Kamara returning, with supposedly Michael Thomas returning, with Olave. Okay, you don't believe in the Bucks, no Tom Brady. Obviously, you don't believe in Baker Mayfield. Okay, and then you look at a Panthers team, which in the preseason, they look offensively challenged. Okay, defense, I think, will be okay. Look what Pittsburgh did to Atlanta last night. Took them to the whooping shed. Okay, Kenny Pickett starting to look more and more like Big Ben. Pickens, Jalen Warren, Najee Harris. My point is here, do you take the sizzle or the steak? And is Ritter the answer? I don't know. You don't know. He's not playing on Cincinnati. Bengals, meaning Cincinnati as in this ain't college kid. Okay. Is Kyle Pitts going to emerge? Yes, I do like Drake London. And Bijan, yes, is a beast. But again, it doesn't add up to, this over under a 7. I could see the over a 7. I could see that. 8.5 now, plus 180 is okay. And I don't have a problem with people taking the plus 180. But the point here is, Pops, in our lanes is very simple. We didn't get the best number. That's the problem. Plus 260, 275, fine. Over 7, fine. Now you're buying the number that Vegas wants you to buy. 8.5. So you think they're going to be 9 and 8. Well, good luck. My point is, they're trending in the right direction. They're moving in the right direction. I think Pitts will have a better year. I think Drake will have a better year. The addition of Bijan is going to be great. Their defense still has holes. They need to work on the defense, and then we need to know what Ritter is. So, again, I was in on this 2-3 weeks ago at plus 275 and over 7. I'm not in the plus 180 and 8.5. I'm really leaning more towards the Saints, but we'll get to the Saints.
Yep, and I'm just going to finish it with this. I don't think that they have the coach that's capable enough of taking them to the next level at this point. I think that possibly if he's going to do that, it'll probably be next season, as he, learns more and more. It seems like they like him a lot in the NFL, because they were, your boy, what's his name? The punter, McAfee. He was really excited to talk to him and everything like that, that bro talk, you know what I mean? And, his dad owned FedEx and all that stuff. So, he had a cool little story about his dad needed $30,000 to save the company. He went in there and played blackjack for a whole day. And won in Vegas and all that good stuff. So they thought that was just awesome and epic and all that. But at the end of the day, that doesn't matter to your fans if you're not winning games. It just doesn't matter. All you're pretty much telling us is that once you get released from being the Falcons coach, if you don't do well, then you have a job still over at FedEx. We got you. No problem. You know what I mean? But I don't trust the coach, so I don't think that I think that all these expectations are a bit too much. I liked him. I was one of the first people. Hey, Atlanta, you need to jump all over it. But as things kept going along, and I see who your quarterback is, and the way I'm ranking quarterbacks, I'm like, bro, I don't know if you I think you might be the fourth best quarterback in the division, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Because I'll get to it in a minute, but I already talked about it. But we not gonna sit over here and just dookie on Baker. You know what I mean? When you think about it, Baker's the second best quarterback in the division. Keep it real. Keep it real. When resume credibility, and really he could say I'm the number one because he's actually won a playoff game. That's and he's actually he's a little bit younger, and it's not like he ain't been wanted by those teams that he played for. It wasn't like it was a force. They were actually excited about having him. So yeah, that. But let's go ahead and talk about Carolina. And Carolina, you know what? I think Carolina's playing possum. Jeff, they went 7-10 last year. They got the best division. They got the best defense in the division, and that's been the last 3 years. They just haven't had an offense to back that defense up. The defense has to do so much, and the offense does so little. But it seems like every year we get to about week 3, week 4, this team has a good little 6-week run where they go 4-2 or something like that, or 5-1. And they find themselves in the playoff position, and they find themselves in the mix. And then all of a sudden, they got to go play against Atlanta, and they lose by a field goal or something, and then everything falls apart. So this team is really weird to me. You know what I mean? And that's why I say you just can't throw them away like that. You just can't. I know they look awful in preseason, but when you want to, a lot of times when teams look really awful in preseason, it don't translate to the season. And then when you see a team looking like the next Super Bowl champions in the preseason, they usually wind up being one of the worst teams week 1. So there's a lot of things that you just have to factor in when it comes to this Carolina team, that they have vision. I think they probably have the best vision in the division, to be honest with you. And I know a lot of people look at Frank Reich and say, man, you got fired from Indianapolis and blah, 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 blah. Well, you know what? Their coach and that owner and GM, they're both some blowhards. Let's keep it real. You know what I mean? And Jim Irsay hired a former player after having a nacho fest with him. So that doesn't count. You know what I mean? You had Family Guys. You had Peter Griffin as your owner. So there's things that you look at and you say to yourself, you cannot discount the Panthers at all. You just can't tell the Panthers that they're not going to show up this year. They have a coach that's been in the playoffs before. They have a coach that knows how to coach up quarterbacks and who recently won a Super Bowl as an offensive coordinator in Philadelphia. So he does have credibility because everybody said Frank Reich was a pretty good coach. Even when he got fired, everybody was like, he's a pretty good coach. I don't know why they fired him. Well, they said he was getting a little too religious in the locker room. I don't know, something. But it was just because your owner wanted to put his boy on as the head coach, which was absolutely retarded. So, you didn't give yourself any chances. But with this Carolina team, what makes me excited about this is you got a plus 360 on the championship odds. Nobody's taking them that seriously in that portion. But that over-under 7.5 tells me that odds makers are up to something. They see something here. And they probably see what I see. If Bryce Young can get it early and translate that leadership and his gamer status to that team, they got a chance because he's a born winner. And when you have a born winner, they can go ahead and that can trickle down to the rest of the team. And I think that when you look at it, they have the rookie of the year. I'm going to be bold and say that. You know what I mean? Because I feel like Bryce can be the rookie of the year with this group. Now, can he get some protection? That's the question that everybody has. But I think as they go along, they'll become one of the better stories in the NFL this year. And I just really think that the Panthers are one of these dark horse teams that a lot of people don't see coming because they don't expect anything. We know week 1, everybody's betting Atlanta because how they're looking in preseason. But even if I was a coach, I'm not going to show you my best during preseason. I'm going to act like we the worst team in the NFL. Because I'm not worried about winning a preseason game. All I'm doing is evaluating. And their evaluations have showed all of us that they don't have the right type of offensive lineman here. But can they make that correction? Yes, they can, because that's what film is for. That's what coaching is for. So when it comes to Carolina, I'm a little excited, Jeff, to keep it real with you. Your thoughts?
I was excited probably 2 months ago. I was actually picking this team to sneak out this division. Why? Because I really like them defensively. I think that is going to be the strength of their team this year. Another rookie quarterback that I don't think should be starting or needs to be starting. Where's Jake Delahome when you need him? Where is someone of that ilk? They traded DJ Moore. They just got an injury on one of their top wide receivers, maybe a bump now to Jonathan Mingo. See what happens to him. They bring over Miles Sanders, who is also nicked up right now. They have looked horrendous offensively in preseason. And again, maybe you're right. Maybe they are playing possum. Maybe all of a sudden the first couple of weeks, Bryce Young looks like that superstar. They're moving the ball. Sanders is catching dump passes. Their OC loves to dump the ball to the back. So I have stayed away from Miles Sanders, but I might grab him a couple times this weekend on the cheap. Maybe you do get a lot of those dump off passes as well. I like where they're going, Pops. I do. Again, it's a division where if you're going to just take the chalk and the Saints offensively and defensively, I see it. But again, if you're looking to shop, stay away from Atlanta. I will take these guys before Tampa, of course. If you're not going to take the favorite in the Saints, then this is my dark horse right here with the Panthers.
And there it is. Jeff likes the Panthers, dark horse. I know it looks like Bryce needs to be benched and he's not ready. I just don't think that offensive line is ready. That's what the thing is to me. But you're right though, Jeff. It's really something that you need to be able to look at exactly what's going on so you can get a better idea. When you throw these guys in the fire, sometimes you ruin their confidence early, and you don't want to ruin a guy like that's confidence. But I just think that he's always been the A student. And when they say generational, he's possibly generational. That's why he went number 1. And that's why, the Texans felt like that they could skip out on a quarterback because they couldn't get the quarterback that they truly wanted, because they wanted Bryce Young bad. They know that really was going to be a guy that could really, be a pillar of the community. When you look at CJ, you just hoping that you don't catch the guy over at Bunnies, you know what I mean? Or over at Onyx, at 4:00 in the morning, hanging out with Floyd Mayweather or somebody, you know what I mean? Because he wants to fit in with all the rich folks. So, it is what it is. But all in all, though, the 7.5 number just tells me that there's confidence in the Panthers, because if there wasn't any confidence in the Panthers, they would be at a 4.5. And I know they want to put them at a 4.5 after what they've seen lately too. But let's move forward, because I know I only got you for so much longer, and you're giving me more time than I need. So let's go ahead and get into the Saints. I'm gonna let you kick this one off. They finished 7-10 last year. Now they have Derek Carr there as the quarterback. I think this is Dennis Allen's show and prove season. If they do not make the playoffs or win this division, I think he's out. He's gone, because he's made a lot. He kind of forced the hand to bring Derek Carr in, overspend on Derek Carr a little bit as well too, with the contract and all that good stuff, because Derek Carr is still getting paid top dollar and all that good stuff. So this has to work. This isn't a we're building something here situation. This is no, we're going to the playoffs or you're fired, straight up. You know what I mean? Because we're not spending all this money on Derek Carr for him to just do what he did in Vegas and Oakland. No, We're not doing that here. So your thoughts, Jeff? I'll let you go ahead and.
I wasn't buying, but the more I'm watching and the more I'm listening, the more I'm seeing. They looked amazing last Sunday. Offensively, Derek looked like he had everything under control. They have the Alvin Kamara situation taken care of. He will miss the first 3 weeks. They brought over the running back from Detroit. They drafted Kendra Miller. Olave, I have huge expectations for him. I think one of the bigger keys is Michael Thomas. Is we going to get the diva who gets dinged up and doesn't want to play but can cash a damn check every Tuesday? Or are we going to get the kid from 3 years ago with 120 catches, the one that wants to say, hey, Mr. Olave, I'm back, just slow the roll a little. A tight end, Juwan Johnson, who's going to have a big fantasy year as well. Now, defensively, I think on paper, one of the best defenses in this division. And I want to say top 10 in the NFL. Add the dome factor 8 times a year. They got the recipe here. I think they win this division, Pops, by default. A Bucs team that's really going to struggle. A Panthers team that's just not there yet, maybe a year behind. And then, of course, the Atlanta team, which I think the quarterback situation at the end is going to get them, and their weaker defense compared to a Saints. So I think the recipe here is who dat and the Saints. As long as Carr is Carr and doesn't try to win the game by his arm, which he can tend to do. I don't think they have to get into that first 1 to 30 mentality because of their defense, Pop. So I think eventually, and I wasn't saying this 6-8 weeks ago, but the more I read through the tea leaves, I'll take the Saints here to win the division.
Well, that's some smart thinking right there. And I think that's something that we can all agree upon, that this is a division that is solely looking at the Saints. And as you know, they have the over 9.5. They have the over under 9.5 here. Championship odds minus 135. So when they have them at a minus, that means that they are damn near locked to win this division. But that's just overthinking, in my opinion. I feel like you're being lazy. The odds makers are being really lazy right now because they're just handing both these teams the division on who the quarterback is and who the coach is. But Dennis Allen isn't the best coach in this division. Not at all. Like, if we rank coaches in this division, he's probably 2 or 3. But he's not the number 1 coach in the division at all. That's not happening. And I think that when you look at the way this team is moving into the season, they are very confident in what they have, and they know that the calling card is going to be defense. But one thing about the Saints that really sets the Saints apart is that they don't have to rely on Derek Carr. Derek Carr is actually in you better show us what you can do. We're not going to sit up in here and have a whole bunch of patience with you like the Raiders did. You got Jameis Winston sitting behind him. You know what I mean? And Jameis Winston will take your spot. And then, believe it or not, they got a kid who's the 3rd string quarterback, Jake Haener, who I feel like is going to be better than both these guys by the end of their careers. And they're just keeping him up under the cellophane. So they have probably the best situation when it comes to the quarterback position, to where they don't have to rely on Derek Carr to take them to the promised land. If Derek Carr can't do it, then go get Jameis. And nobody else in this division has that luxury. Nobody else has that luxury in this division. And that's what truly sets the Saints apart from everybody else in the South, straight up. So that's something that's working in their favor. And then the thing is, with this Saints team, we know that they have the defensive stars. They don't have the best defense, but they have the defensive stars. And that's one thing that puts them over the top. And you know one thing, Sean Payton wish he would have had this defense when they won that Super Bowl a decade ago. That's how good this defense truly is. And I think that if they are the calling card for the Saints like they've been the last few years, the Saints should easily walk away with this division. But none of these games are going to be that easy for them, especially on the road.
I agree.
All right. So, because you gave me that look, I thought you had you wanted to put in some final words.
No. I agree. Like I says, if the divisions that we broke down today are two divisions with two favorites, the Saints and the Jaguars, that Vegas is just putting the minus sign because they don't know. They want to make the public, the squares, the degenerates, choose it on their own. I mean, they're you take the Jags by default because they're ascending, and then you take the Saints by default because there's no Tom Brady. There's a rookie quarterback in Carolina and a rookie quarterback in Atlanta. I mean, there's not a lot of meat on the bone to choose from here.
Right. And everything just kind of goes back to the Saints, but we know seasons have went different when they've handed teams the division by default, especially when it comes to the South.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to the South. But right now, today, Saints look like the best. It look like the team that wins this division. But I'm not handing them the division yet. I have to still go through my notes, and we'll have an answer next week. You know what I mean? But let's go ahead and jump into our next team, and it's going to be a fun one here because these guys are the defending champions of the division, but they don't have Tommy Boy is not here anymore, and they are a different team. Do they still have the best defense in the division? Do they still have the best coach in the division? They got a lot of things that are pretty good for a team that is supposed to be rebuilding. They still got some pieces there, but I truly do feel that the Buccaneers know what they're doing. This is kind of a bridge season for them. Okay, they went 8-9 last year. That's a losing record. No matter how you put it, don't matter you won the division, it was a losing record. And they didn't look good in most of their games last year, even in wins. This team was ugly, but I will say this, though. They got Baker Mayfield, who's on his fourth team in 18 months, okay? And that right there tells me that is it his last shot? Probably not. But what we're doing here is we're banking on the fact that Baker has the experience to take this team to the playoffs because he's been to the playoffs before and he's won in the playoffs before. And one thing I mentioned the other day, I even put out a actual video. I hope you saw it too, Jeff, talking about Baker Mayfield. Is this going to be when is he going to hush the critics up now? Well, Baker Mayfield is about to play with the best wide receiver he's ever had. Yeah, Mike Evans is a better wide receiver for him than OBJ was. OBJ, he probably got the more subdued OBJ. OBJ wasn't 100% focused in Cleveland. So it can't be his best wide receiver because Landry was better for him and Peoples was better for him. And I think now he has probably the guy that's going to define the rest of his career at this point. And everybody that's hooked up with Mike Williams have had some really good seasons. Mike Evans, have had some really good years. You know what I mean? Look at Jameis. Some of his threw for 5,000 yards. His top receiver was Mike Evans. Brady literally goes to the Super Bowl the first season. Mike Evans is his top receiver. And Mike Evans, will make a quarterback that much more confident in throwing him the ball because he literally catches everything. And he's always a deep threat. And it's just an amazing thing to see. They have an over-under of 6.5, 7-1 to win the division. I think that's a bit too high for this team. I thought it would have been 5, 6-1. But they're saying no. We don't feel the Bucs have a chance at all. But you're telling me that you don't feel that this team doesn't have a chance at all. And they're the team that won the Super Bowl a few years ago. They're the team that has the quarterback that actually is the only one with a playoff victory. This team is dangerous for this division. It does not matter. When you go to Tampa Bay for that road game, Saints, Panthers, Falcons, that game is your hardest game in the division. You got a loud crowd. It might be humid that day, and you got a team that plays off their crowd's energy. So there's a lot of things that are in a positive for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yeah, it might sound crazy today, but they have a capable coach, they have a capable quarterback, and they have a capable system in place to still win this division because that's what they've done for the last 4 years. And it's just like the Dodgers. Yeah, you're rebuilding, but you know exactly how to beat these guys. But it's going to be tough because it's not, oh, Tommy boy. Tom's trusted. Tom can get away with stuff if he has a bad game. Baker can't. That's the biggest thing. If Baker has a bad game, the whole world's going to talk bad about him. Baker has a great game, the whole world's going to talk about him. There is no middle for him. So there's a lot of things that are looking good paper-wise for the Bucks, but then there's a lot of things looking bad paper-wise for the Bucks as well too. Your thoughts?
Fire the cannons. How many times will they be saying that? Listen, Tommy gave him a good run. They gave him a Super Bowl. They faded down the stretch. Myself outside looking in, I'm going to call this a bridge year in this regards. No Leonard Fournette, which again, he was just to shell himself. They got Rashard White, which I do have some shares of. I'm not in on the Godwin Evans. I personally think if they get off to a slow start, they could use these two wide receivers as selling points at the trade deadline to someone that might need a veteran wide receiver that might help a team get over the edge. A good young defense with some holes. They've shown flashes and they've shown some bad spots as well. I'm not a Baker guy. I never was a Baker guy. I'm not here to throw a bucket of water on him either, but it's a draft class with some high-end quarterbacks coming in with Cade Cunningham, the kid May from the UNC, and there's a bunch of others. Talked with Bernie Fratto on Fox Sports Radio. There's a coach named Mr. Harbaugh that might throw his hat back into the ring next year, and hearing that Tampa might be one of the sites that if that job becomes available. Hey, listen, could they make the playoffs? Of course they can. The NFC is wide open. You got the Eagles, you got the 49ers, you got Dallas. Then what? No Tom, no Rodgers. It's wide open. So we usually see teams come out of the woodwork, and this team could be one. I would be surprised. I would bet the under on their team total. I don't think they can win the division, but stranger things have happened, and it's a division that's wide open, Pops.
All right. And then you guys, one more time, you guys can see it over under 6.5 for next year, 7-1 championship odds. So if you guys are looking for the upset winner in the division, that's who it is. And let me give you guys a good little fun story, and it's short too. I remember I was real confident one year in the Saints, and the Saints were plus 550 to win the division. This is when Atlanta used to be the kingpin of the South. And I remember that was the year they went 13-3, Jeff, the Saints. So that was fun, a lot of fun. Even though they lost in the playoffs, that was a lot of fun that season with them wrapping up that title that way because, you got it home. So that's what I'm trying to say. Just be confident. It's okay to go get a future nobody believes in. It's all right because you want that future. You want the person that nobody believes in. If everybody believes in that person, you ain't going to get the value. And then you get pissed off when that team loses. That's why everybody goes crazy on Twitter when these top teams lose because they lose so much money on them. Because they were told that they were a sure thing. And in life, as my brother Jeff told me, the only sure thing that you have is the front lock and the back lock on your doors. That's it. You know what I mean? Those are the only locks you're going to get, sir. That's it. So with that, that's going to be a wrap on today's show. Jeff, any final words before we leave?
No, this is the last weekend of preseason. There's going to be some more injuries. There's going to be some cuts. We are 13 days away from opening day with the Lions at Pop's favorite team and quarterback at the Kansas City Chiefs. He's a big Mahomes fan, LOL. But the thought of it, a lot of work still needs to be done. There's a lot. Listen, the AFC is loaded. I think you can probably go right now and bet the AFC to win the Super Bowl at like -2.5 points or something. So the NFC, I'd like to say, is the Wild Wild West this year. But we'll find out. We'll be back next week. We'll do some unders and overs, some futures, yada, yada, yada. We'll probably give out our Super Bowl matchup. But I just want to end with this is, 6 weeks ago, everyone was worried about someone's hands. They said when he was drafted a year ago, his hands were too small. Call me crazy, Pops, but I thought I was watching Big Ben last night. I thought I was watching Big Ben. Making all the throws, stretching the fields, Pickett to Pickens, Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, a coach that has never had a losing season with a defense with Watt back. And I know I've said since day one in the show, it's the most competitive division, hands down, is the AFC North, where everyone thinks Cincinnati and Joe have already won the division. We all know what Lamar and Harbaugh are going to bring to the table. And this team from the Browns that everyone thinks Deshaun's going to be rejuvenated. Okay, I'm going to go on record right now today. Okay. The Browns finished last. Okay, that's number one. And number two, Pickett to Pickens will be something you're going to talk a lot about this year. And the Steelers are going to the playoffs. And I'm this close to say the Steelers win that division, but I'll save that for next week.
All right. See, so you get excited about the Steelers. I see that, but it's all good, man. What you call it? There's teams out there, man. They are playing really good ball here in the preseason, and you're very confident in them because who their coaches are. It's not even about who the roster is and all this other stuff. It's about who your coach is. You know what I mean? And right now, I think that this is the year of the coach in the NFL. It's not these players right now, they're moving parts, okay? But I think it is going to come down to who has the best coaching and who has the best system in place and can follow that system. But we'll have a lot more to talk about next week when we talk about the West Side. We got the AFC West, the NFC West. So that means that all the Broncos, Raiders, all the Chiefs, all the Seahawks, 49ers, the somewhat Rams and Charger fans, and the two Cardinal fans that exist, all y'all can pull up and watch the show next week.
Hey, is Kool Mo D going to meet us at the Wild Wild West? Wild Wild West.
It's gonna be fun to talk about the West because there's a lot of storyline going on in that division. But all in all, we'll be back to you guys next Friday. Make sure that you're tuning in and make sure that you're retweeting, sharing the show as much as me and Jeff do. Okay, so let's get those numbers up, and we are out of here. I'm not gonna say it, Jeff, but we are out of here, and we are gone.
Thank you for tuning in to the NFL Bet Exchange, where the sharpest bets are laid. This show was produced by